So next up in the development of the Cold War is the Berlin Crisis, or the Berlin Blockade, that happened from 1948 to 49. It's the first major crisis of the Cold War. The root of it comes from the division of Germany and the division of Berlin that was decided on in the peace conferences. Germany would be divided into 4 zones, and in the Eastern Soviet zone, Berlin, the capital city, was also divided into 4 sectors. After the Marshall Plan, which had been formed part of the Truman Doctrine of helping Western Europe recover and contain the spread of communism, West Berlin, which was supported by the Allies, had received Marshall Plan aid. This was a capitalist enclave behind the Iron Curtain that Winston Churchill had talked about. The Berlin Blockade was also caused by this differing speeds of recovery that you had in the Western German zones, which had all received Marshall Plan aids, and the East German zone, which was controlled by the Soviets. They wanted to show that they didn't need the Marshall Plan, they didn't need capitalist money. But it wasn't as successful, and so people's lives were not getting the quality that they were in the Western zones or in West Berlin. The creation of West Germany by linking the 3 Allied zones, the American zone, French zone and British zone, also led to the tensions between the 2 sides. It all kicks off on the 24th of June 1948 when Stalin blockades the Western Berlin sectors, cuts off all the land routes into West Berlin. At this point, President Truman is faced with a choice. He's got 3 options as to what he can do. He can either withdraw all of the Allied forces out of West Berlin, basically giving up West Berlin to the east side and to communist views. He can, if he wants to, challenge the blockade. He can tell his trucks or his trains to smash through the blockade, which is probably going to start another big conflict between the East and the West. It's going to kick off a Cold War and it's going to start into a hot war. Or alternatively, he can do an airlift. He can use the airports that are within the Western zone to fly in the resources that those people will need. So he'll fly in food, he'll fly in coal so that they are able to survive this blockade. The airlift would continue for approximately a year, from June 1948 until May 1949. Stalin could have, if he wanted to, shot down one of these planes, but again, that would have been him really officially starting a huge conflict between the East and the West. In the end, Stalin, on the 12th of May 1949, calls off the blockade. He's failed to starve the Allies out of West Berlin. And that brings to an end the Berlin Blockade and the Berlin airlift. However, the event does confirm this division between the East and the West. It increases and intensifies the rivalry between the Americans and the Soviets. And it leads directly to the creation of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is a huge organization designed to counterbalance the threat of the Soviets in Europe.